World War II forced the United States to build a fighter force almost from scratch, and then evolve it faster than any nation in history. At the start of the war, American pilots flew designs rooted in the 1930s, often outmatched in speed, altitude, and firepower. Just 4 years later, U.S. fighters were escorting bombers across continents, dominating carrier battles in the Pacific, and introducing the jet age. This video is a complete inventory of every U.S. fighter aircraft used during World War II, organized in strict historical order, explaining not just what these aircraft were, but why each one mattered, where it succeeded, and where it fell short. As you listen, which fighter do you think had the biggest impact overall, and which one gets too much credit today? Pre-war and early war U.S. fighters, 1935-1941, Curtiss P-36, Hawk. The Curtiss P-36 Hawk was one of the first modern fighters adopted by the U.S. Army Air Corps, featuring an all-metal monoplane design and retractable landing gear, both major advances over biplanes. When introduced, it was competitive internationally, but rapid European innovation quickly left it behind. Although it saw limited U.S. combat use, the P-36 provided critical engineering lessons and directly influenced later Curtiss designs. Its greatest contribution was serving as the developmental foundation for more capable wartime fighters. Seversky P-35. The Seversky P-35, pronounced Seversky, represented a bold but transitional step toward modern fighter construction. It introduced enclosed cockpits and all-metal stressed skin design to U.S. service, yet suffered from underpowered engines and limited armament. By the time America entered the war, the P-35 was already obsolete for frontline combat. However, its role in shifting U.S. procurement philosophy toward modern monoplanes was strategically important. Curtiss P-40, Warhawk. The Curtiss P-40, Warhawk became the backbone of early American fighter operations despite its limitations. While not competitive at high altitudes, it was rugged, reliable, and heavily armed for its time. The P-40 excelled at low to medium altitude combat and proved effective in harsh environments from North Africa to the Pacific. Its durability and availability made it indispensable during the critical early years when better designs were not yet ready. Bell P-39. Era Cobra. The Bell P-39. Era Cobra introduced radical design choices, including a mid-mounted engine and a powerful 37mm cannon firing through the propeller hub. While innovative, its lack of a turbo supercharger severely limited high-altitude performance. This made it unpopular in Western Europe, but useful at lower altitudes, particularly in ground attack and interception roles. The aircraft highlighted the risks of experimental design under wartime pressure. Bell P-400. The Bell P-400 was an export-modified Era Cobra variant pressed into U.S. service due to urgent wartime shortages. Armed differently and optimized for lower altitudes, it filled gaps during the chaotic early Pacific campaigns. Though never ideal, it ensured American forces remained operational during a critical transition period. Carrier-based U.S. Navy and Marine Corps fighters, 1940-1945, Grumman F-2F and F-3F. The Grumman F-2F and its improved successor, the F-3F, were the U.S. Navy's final biplane fighters and represented the bridge between old and new carrier aviation. They were agile, reliable, and well-suited to carrier landings, but their speed and climb rate were quickly outclassed by modern monoplanes. By the time the United States entered the war, these aircraft were already relegated to training roles. Their importance lies in preparing naval pilots and engineers for the demands of high-performance carrier operations. Grumman F-4F Wildcat. The Grumman F-4F. Wildcat was the primary U.S. Navy and Marine Corps fighter during the early Pacific War. Outperformed by Japanese Zeros in maneuverability, The Wildcat compensated with armor, self-sealing fuel tanks, and rugged construction. It introduced tactical adaptations, such as energy fighting and coordinated maneuvers that allowed American pilots to survive and win despite technical disadvantages. The Wildcat held the line until more advanced fighters became available. Grumman F-6F Hellcat. The Grumman F-6F Hellcat was designed specifically to defeat the Zero, and it succeeded decisively. With superior speed, climb, firepower, and durability, it became the most lethal carrier fighter of the war. The Hellcat dominated the skies during major naval battles, contributing directly to the collapse of Japanese naval aviation. Its forgiving handling and reliability made it ideal for mass pilot training and rapid deployment. Vought F-4U Corsair. The Vought F-4U Corsair, pronounced Corsair, combined exceptional speed with heavy firepower, but early landing difficulties delayed widespread carrier use. Initially operated from land bases by the Marine Corps, it proved devastating in air-to-air combat and ground attack roles. Once carrier issues were resolved, the Corsair became a mainstay of naval aviation. Its long service life reflected its versatility and combat effectiveness. Grumman F-8F Bearcat. The Grumman F-8F Bearcat arrived late in the war, designed as a lightweight, high-performance interceptor. Although it saw minimal combat, it represented the peak of piston-engine carrier fighter design. The Bearcat embodied lessons learned throughout the war and foreshadowed post-war naval aviation priorities. Early U.S. Army Air Force's mainline fighters, 1941-1943, Curtiss P-40 Warhawk, combat employment phase. As the war expanded, the P-40 became the most widely deployed U.S. Army fighter in the early years of global combat. It was not designed for high-altitude interception, but it proved dependable in escort, interception, and ground attack roles. In theaters like North Africa and the China-Burma-India region, the P-40's rugged airframe allowed it to absorb damage and continue flying. Its operational success came from adaptability rather than raw performance. Bell P-39. Airacobra, frontline service. In active service, the P-39 found its niche at low and medium altitudes where its heavy nose-mounted cannon was effective against aircraft and ground targets. The aircraft's unconventional layout affected handling at altitude, limiting its usefulness in Western Europe. However, in roles requiring firepower and durability, it remained relevant longer than originally expected. Its service record illustrates how operational context determines an aircraft's value. Republic P-43. Lancer, the Republic P-43. Lancer was an interim design developed while more advanced fighters were still under construction. Although it introduced turbo-supercharging concepts, it lacked armor and self-sealing fuel tanks, making it unsuitable for sustained combat. As a result, it was quickly withdrawn from frontline service. Despite this, the P-43 played a crucial role in testing technologies that would later define successful U.S. fighters. Lockheed P-38. Lightning, early deployment. The Lockheed P-38, Lightning, pronounced Lockheed, was unlike any other fighter in U.S. service, featuring twin engines and long-range capability. Early models struggled with engine reliability and compressibility issues at high speed. Even so, the P-38 offered unmatched range and firepower during a period when escort fighters were desperately needed. Its early operational use laid the groundwork for later refinements that would unlock its full potential. Mid-war high-altitude and escort fighters, 1943-1944, Republic P-47. Thunderbolt, the Republic P-47. Thunderbolt was one of the largest and heaviest single-engine fighters ever built. designed around a powerful turbo-supercharged radial engine. At high altitude, it excelled in speed, durability, and diving performance, making it well-suited for bomber escort over Europe. Early on, its limited range restricted escort missions, but external fuel tanks gradually solved this problem. The P-47's ability to absorb damage and still return home earned it a reputation as one of the most survivable fighters of the war. Lockheed P-38 Lightning, mature role. As technical issues were resolved, the P-38 Lightning emerged as a highly effective long-range fighter. Its twin-engine layout provided redundancy and stability, while concentrated nose-mounted firepower delivered devastating accuracy. The P-38 proved especially valuable in the Pacific, where long distances demanded extended range. By mid-war, it had become a versatile platform capable of escort, interception, and reconnaissance missions. North American P-51 Mustang, early variants. The early P-51 Mustang was initially powered by an Allison engine, which limited its high-altitude performance. Despite this, the aircraft demonstrated exceptional aerodynamics and efficiency. It performed well in low-level escort and reconnaissance roles, revealing the airframe's true potential. These early variants convinced planners that the Mustang could become a decisive fighter if paired with a more suitable engine. Late-war air superiority fighters, 1944 to 1945, North American P-51 Mustang, Merlin-powered variants. The introduction of the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine transformed the P-51 Mustang into one of the most effective fighters of the war. With superior high-altitude performance, long range, and excellent handling, it could escort bombers deep into enemy territory and remain competitive in air combat. The Mustang fundamentally altered the air war over Europe by denying enemy fighters the ability to attack bombers freely. Its combination of speed, range, and reliability made it the definitive U.S. air superiority fighter of World War II. Republic P-47. Thunderbolt, late variants. Late war versions of the P-47 benefited from increased fuel capacity, refined aerodynamics, and expanded ground attack capabilities. While it was no longer the fastest climber compared to newer fighters, its toughness and firepower made it exceptionally effective in close air support roles. The Thunderbolt could carry heavy bomb and rocket loads while still defending itself in aerial combat. By 1945, it had become a critical tool for supporting advancing ground forces. Grumman F-6F Hellcat, late variants. As the war progressed, the Hellcat continued to receive incremental improvements that enhanced performance and survivability. By late 1944, it faced fewer experienced enemy pilots, amplifying its already strong combat record. The aircraft remained easy to fly and maintain, allowing rapid replacement of losses. Its dominance helped secure air superiority during the final carrier campaigns in the Pacific. Vought F-4U Corsair, late variants. Later Corsair variants refined carrier landing characteristics and improved overall reliability. The aircraft became equally feared in air-to-air combat and ground attack missions. Its speed allowed it to intercept enemy aircraft effectively, while its payload capacity supported amphibious operations. By the end of the war, the Corsair had proven its adaptability across multiple mission profiles. Experimental, limited-use, and transition fighters, 1944-1945, Lockheed P-80. Shooting Star, the Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star, pronounced Shooting Star, was America's first operational jet fighter, marking a decisive technological break from piston-engine aircraft. Introduced in the final months of the war, it arrived too late to influence combat outcomes in Europe or the Pacific. Early versions faced reliability and maintenance challenges typical of first-generation jet technology. Despite its limited wartime service, the P-80 symbolized the future of air combat and closed the World War II era on a technological turning point. Vultee P-66 Vanguard. The Vultee P-66 Vanguard was originally designed for export and only briefly intersected with U.S. wartime needs. Its performance lagged behind frontline fighters, and it lacked the protection required for sustained combat operations. As a result, it saw minimal use in American service and was quickly sidelined. The P-66 represents the many stopgap designs that emerged during rapid pre-war expansion, but proved unsuitable once combat realities became clear. XP Series Experimental Fighters. Throughout the war, the U.S. Army Air Forces tested numerous experimental XP Series fighters that never reached mass production. These aircraft explored advanced aerodynamics, propulsion systems, and armament configurations under real wartime urgency. While most never saw combat, their data directly informed late war and post-war designs. This experimental pipeline ensured the U.S. remained technologically adaptive rather than reactive. The U.S. fighter evolution in WWII. The American fighter inventory of World War II reflects a rapid and deliberate transformation rather than a single breakthrough. The United States entered the war with aircraft that were already nearing obsolescence, yet compensated through industrial scale, iterative design, and operational flexibility. Early fighters bought time, mid-war designs stabilized the air war, and late-war aircraft achieved outright dominance. No single fighter won the war alone. Success came from overlapping roles, constant upgrades, and the ability to replace losses faster than any opponent. By 1945, U.S. fighter doctrine emphasized range, pilot survivability, and adaptability, principles that would define post-war air power. The appearance of the P-80 at the war's end confirmed that the piston engine era had reached its limit. World War II did not just test American fighters. It reshaped how the United States would design, deploy, and think about air superiority for decades to come.